Hi, this is zebracode.io. This is a free coding curriculum for high school students, and we're looking at Lesson 12, focusing on files. And the first thing you might ask about files is, why do we need files? Well, files allow us to persist data. So far we've written programs, and once we turn off the computer, all of the data stored with that program is gone. But files allow us to not only read data in, but to write data in, and allows us to store data. And it's a precursor to databases, and we're going to be using this more as we get further along into the course. But some common file types are text files and CSV files. We'll look at both. Text files are simply files that you can open it up with Notepad or any text editor, and a CSV file is comma separated file, and we'll look more about that. And let's go ahead and open up a text file. I have in the resources a bunch of data sets or files that were available. The first one is called independence.txt, and that's a Declaration of Independence, and it has all the words associated with the Declaration of Independence. And we're going to go ahead and open these files. We can see how many lines we have, how many words we have. We can search for various texts. Here's a CSV file. It's a small one, and if you open a CSV file in Notepad or any text editor, you get something that looks like this. Usually the first line, it's optional, but it has what every column represents. The first column is the date, the open, the high, the low, the close, and the volume. This represents Apple stock prices for the last year or for 1 year's worth of data. You can also open up a CSV file in Excel, or in this case, it's the equivalent open source of Excel, and it often puts it in a format like this. You can open it up in Notepad where it'll be separated by commas. Again, it's comma separated values is what CSV stands for. This is one of the files we'll be working with, Zillow.csv. It's a very large file. It has lots and lots and lots of cities, and it has rents for pretty much the last close to 10 years worth of data for every month. So we can do all kinds of analysis with this, and we'll be doing some simple exercises as we go through different CSV files. You can Google different file sets and grab these down and use them because they're essentially small databases. Some common modes that we'll be working with is the read mode, write mode, and append mode. So read mode means we're taking the data, we're going to read it. Write mode means we're going to write it. And every time we write mode, it starts clear and it starts anew. And if you want to append to data, if you want to keep a history of it, we would use the append. Now here's a basic write example. We've got some lines here, just a handful of lines. First thing we want to do is open a file. We're opening the file, and then we designate the mode, whether it's going to be read, write, or append, denoted by R, W, or A. We have this new line here that in case we want to have multiple lines in the file, and then we close the file. So this is really simple. A couple lines of code here where we write hello world, and then we write hello world with a second line. Here's another example, a little bit more involved, but not much. We can import random, just use any of the functions we've done before. We're going to open a file called number.txt, text file, and put it in write mode. So if we do this multiple times, it's going to overwrite numbers.txt each time, unless we use the A for append. So we're going to use iterate 10 times through here. We're going to generate 10 random numbers, and each random number we're going to write into the file using the myfile.write. Here's another read example with the independence.txt file. We can create a variable called myfile. It's assigned the value of open, and we're opening the independence.txt. This should be in the exact same place of where our code is, so the files need to be at the same folder level as our code. We're opening it up in read mode because of the R, and now we're going to have a variable called line count, and we're going to iterate through the entire file, print out each line, and iterate or increment the line count with each time, and at the very end we can close the file and we can print out the total line count. So this will go through the Declaration of Independence, for example, in the file that we have, and count the lines. Here's another read example. Again, we open the independence.txt file in read mode, and we're going to have two variables now. One's called line count and the other one's called word count. They're both initiated to 0. We're going to iterate through each line, and as we hit each line, we're going to use words. Words assign the value of line.split. Remember, we can take the line of code, like a sentence, and split it into a list of words. And now a word count is going to be assigned the value of word count plus the length of the words in that line. So as we iterate through every line, we get the total word count, we got the total line count as we did before, and then we can output the data. Next, let's look at some basic code for CSV files. Again, that's comma separated values. So we should always explore our data and be comfortable with it, but here's some sample code of reading a CSV file. Similarly, we're going to have a my file is assigned the value of open, and we're going to open some CSV file, and we're going to open it up in read, write, or append mode. And now we can use this reader, or some variable is assigned the value of csv.reader, and we're going to pass it a file. Now, we can often have headers, so headers is going to be assigned the value of next. Next brings us to the first item in the CSV file, and if it has a headers, it will be appropriately stored in this headers variable, and if not, then it will not be. And we can print the headers just to get an idea of what data is being given to us. Now we can iterate through the reader, and we can look at our data and know the position of the columns we're interested in. In this case, if we're interested in the title of the movie, that's in the first column, and if we're interested in the year the movie was made, that's in the sixth column. The IMDb database, or CSV file, is a large file that has all kinds of movies. It talks about who the actors are, the titles of the movies, the revenues it was made, the year the movie was made, some of the actors and actresses. It has a lot of information. In this case, we're just focused on two columns. One, we're interested in the title of the movie and the year the movie was made, and this would print all of those out. The seek method brings us to the beginning of the file. It's optional. If you're going to go through the file multiple times, you're going to need to go through the file and then restart it, or reset the pointer to the beginning and go through it. And at the very end, we want to close the file. So that's some sample code associated with reading a CSV file. This is zebracode.io, and we are on lesson 12.